the creator. So it's not the thing that is divine, but it is the maker. So then any encounter with the wild, no matter how animistic, how bizarre, how strange it might seem on the surface, is effectively a kind of metaphor for an awakening to a deeper reality. And that always involves some sort of a loss, some sort of stupid decision that needs to be rectified. And there are certain things that the hero has to do to put himself into the right pattern with respect to the wild. They involve things like sitting on a stump and crying. That's a metaphor for having the proper humility towards no longer feeling oneself the hero with the sword brandished. You lost everything. You sit down, you cry. At that point, you're able to receive the help that comes from the wild, right? Not if you come barging in, which is something that happens a lot for the heroes. Or you're insane, or you act insane. And by doing that, the wild recognizes you as one of its own, which happens in a lot of the Ivan the Idiot cycle, which is a whole cycle of tales, where the third son is always acting out like the idiot. His family treats him like the moron. And in spite of the fact that he seems to be incapable of living life, every time there is an incursion of the wild into civilization, which usually happens in the form of a horse stomping on wheat, and the horse has a fiery mane, so it's not a regular horse, it's something from the uncanny, or the firebird coming into the garden and taking the apples, which is another image of the wild coming into cultivation and kind of where it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be out there in the forest, not in the garden eating the apples. The idiot comes and he's able to conquer the wild thing because he's already wild himself. While the hero, the prince, has to adopt a posture of humility because he doesn't realize that if he continues to act out the role of the conquering hero, he will be killed, just like his horse was eaten by the gray wolf just 5 minutes ago. And he always forgets it, and at the end, very often he gets chopped into little pieces, and he has to kind of be brought back from a very humiliating death in a last act of grace coming from the wild, and only then can he come back to the cultivated world, but already as a transformed person with who has acquired beauty or some virtue or something like that, and then comes back and then transforms the place that he came from. So if you start looking at it from that perspective, then the crazy and wild things that happen aren't arbitrary. They all have a very strict logic, but the logic is not a worldly logic. It's the logic of the wild. It's a logic of the other world. And it's not out of tune with the logic of the lives of the saints, especially the holy fools. Because the holy fools will always be doing silly things.
It's funny you say that because I just picked up a book on the sayings of the Desert Fathers.
Such a great book.
And you read some of it, you're like, this just sounds like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Like throwing somebody into an oven and the oven becomes a fridge or something cold. Or
yeah, and there's dragons and all kinds of interesting animal stories and stuff. Yeah. The proper way to look at that, I think, is that, and this is not an original thought to me. This is something that's been talked about from age immemorial. But when you go away from the center being civilization, Camelot, the city, and you move to the fringes, to the margins, that's where the chaos is. That's where the wildness is. That's where the potential is. So you encounter things there that don't make sense. You encounter things there that are shape-shifting, are demonic, are strange, and you have to have the proper posture to them. And in the lives of the saints, in the sayings of the Desert Fathers, that's a very clear thing. They go out there to battle. They go out there to go into their inner self and then fight all the things that happen to them. So those sayings are incredible.